do you have any like expectations based on what you just heard here, or what do you think?
Well, maybe some of the newer features, maybe some of the new tech they might be putting into some of these Class C's and Class A's. Class B, I wouldn't be too concerned with, but I'm looking. You had recommended in the past that I maybe look at a Class C, which I agree with you. That's gonna be perfect for me because I can actually drop a few bikes on it if I want to go anywhere. Plus, it's you can drive around and everything, but I think that's
I'm looking at the chat. Too bad they don't spend as much time on their product quality as they do on virtual reveals. Yeah, so this is a problem that industry has in general. Is just not just Winnebago.
That was going to be my question for you. Was you have a Thor? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what drew you to that over like one of their?
Winnebago did not. So I came from a Winnebago towable toy hauler, and my family. So I just realized I pulled you off of your whole Class B C discussion. Let's get back to that in a minute. But to answer the question in front of me, I didn't want to stop every 45 minutes for my family to use the bathroom and get snacks.
Right.
So we went with a motorhome where they could literally do that without getting out of the motorhome.
Right.
I'm just like every other dad on a road trip in this country, maybe the world. We stop at these gas stations, and I would literally look at my watch, and there's 45 minutes gone.
Yeah.
There's 30 minutes gone.
Right.
It takes me 5 minutes to pump gas. And, before COVID, they're in line at the bathroom. They're buying snacks. They're getting food. They're taking the dog for a walk. They're doing, and it's like, hey, why are we rolling into these campgrounds after dark?
Right, and that was what I was about to say, and it makes sense because and these are things that people need to consider when they're purchasing these things is, how do you, what are you trying to achieve? And I could, 30 minutes before dark versus getting it dark can mean a lot of different things for you, man. Whether or not we can settle in.
It's just easier.
Yeah, whether or not I can settle in easily in the evening, how much longer it's going to take me in the dark versus how much longer, how much time I save by doing it in the light. So, yeah.
So setup and tear down are comparable. The advantage I would say that you have in a motorhome is that the thing we use ours year round. It's already to temperature when you get there. Whether that's the air conditioning running in the summer or the heat in the winter.
Yeah.
If you're pulling a fifth wheel and it's 45 degrees out, you got to wait for that. A lot of times it's painful for the first 30 minutes.
Sure, it is because those trailers are. I mean, as they're as well insulated as they possibly can be, and that's what you need to understand, that it may take a while to get that thing up to temperature for you. So that's a good point you bring up, and if someone considering something like that. But you may just be a weekend getaway type person that wants something that you want a vehicle you can pull, drop it, set it up, and then you've got a vehicle you can drive around town, go grab things you need and get back.
And the bottom line, Jay, is you're always pulling something, right?
Yeah. So
people dog motorhomes because, you got to tow a car. All right, well, you're still towing a trailer with your truck. I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Right. I mean, it's not, I will say that the teardown time is a little bit different in a motorhome because basically I'm responsible for the outside, right? So water hookup, electric hookup, stabilizer jacks, getting the awnings out, getting carpet out, outdoor, all that stuff, right? If it's a dump station or the sewer drain or whatever, right? Okay, once those are done and everything's packed in, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So if the dishes aren't done or put away, you do those going down the road.
Right, exactly.
That's the difference, right? Yeah. You can't do that with a truck hooked up to your RV.
Yeah, if you're hungry, you can make a sandwich driving along. You can, exactly.
Hey, I'll have coffee after, I'm going to run outside and get this thing tore down real quick, and then, you can make the coffee while we're driving.
Right, so basically what you're saying is that with a drivable, a Class A motorhome versus a pull-behind, you have a lot more inclusive things going on. And that's very useful.
So back to your Class B, Class C discussion,
right.
I would say that maybe one advantage that you have, based on the area of the country where you live, you have a little bit more. If you look at a Class B, and again, Amazon vans, right?
Right.
They're making some 4-wheel drive options of those.
Yeah.
Your backcountry camping possibilities are greater.
Oh, absolutely. And
you
I
can
do
get those things off the pavement.
I do see a lot of, say, Ford E250.
Yeah.
And some of the Sprinter vans, the Mercedes diesels that are 4x4. And you can get into some really, really way back in spots with those.
You're trading size or internal space for off-road capability is basically what that boils down to.
Which is advantageous to your point earlier in this, when we started this conversation, we started talking, with this reveal, is that you finding a space to park your RV is much, much more difficult these days than ever before because everybody's out on the road and they're out RVing. So
west of the Mississippi, it's a little bit easier because you have more wide open space. So you'll have Bureau of Land Management, BLM land, right? There's not going to be any hookups, but you can go out there for a couple days and literally there are no campsites like paved or gravel or whatever. You just find yourself a spot. We've done that in my Class A and parked in the mountains in Colorado, literally the windows looking at a river.
And what did we do last year? We installed your solar panels.
Yeah.
That's where those guys come in really handy. So there's so many different things that if you'll think outside the box and just kind of consider additions to it, some modifications later on, these are not things that you have to do right away and buy from the factory. It's just like we talk about when you purchase a new vehicle, any OEM part or any accessory that you might be able to add on at the time of purchase, you can always add it on down the road. So if it doesn't fit your budget at the time and you're not real sure if you want to go that far, just kind of do your homework and go out on a couple of trips and go park it and say, darn, I wish I had those solar panels because then we could have stayed back at such and such campground for half the price and there was nobody there and it's in a lot better. So a lot of things to consider when you're purchasing those things. So you got to do your homework. Now, question for you before we get any further into some of this video.
Well, and you will be able to scrub this at this point, I think,
absolutely.
So we can kind of
pick back up. But what I want to say, Keith and I have talked about, he knows that my wife and I are very interested in purchasing one, but we may, instead of just running out and buying the latest and greatest thing, probably the smartest thing we can do is maybe look at a slightly used version, maybe just a few years old.
Your sweet spot is 1 to 2 year old used, and I'm going to tell you why. I've had both. Everybody, myself included, that I know that goes out and buys one off of a dealer lot new, they have what's called shakedown. And these things, I jest at the beginning when I said, they're built by toothless, but there's some kind of truth to that in the amount of slop that goes on. I just in my current rig, so I bought new for one very particular reason on the one I have now. There was a model change. They did something on the new models going forward that I didn't care for.
Right.
And I wanted the old way that they did it, and I have my reasons, and they're based on, personal experience. And you can't find them. So I bought last year's model, but it was a new one. And so what I had with that thing was everything from, the generator exhaust lines not hooked up and basically just blowing carbon monoxide back into the cabin, to the carbon monoxide detector being wired backward, to the in-coach gas as the toy hauler gas line not being vented properly and blowing gas all through this, eating the paint off the side, to literally the punch list was just miles long. The dealer joked with me that the first year they owned it more than I did.
Joke's not on you, man. It sucks, really. That's not fun when you got to deal with that. You expect to be able to get into something and take it and go. But what everybody needs to understand is each one of these RVs, they're all custom units. They're not
Right.
There are no two exactly alike. Yes, while they
it's all hand built. There's no machining
so there is
in the
something going to be
process.
different from the one that just rolled off and the one that's coming in to be customized. So everybody needs to understand
And the QC
that.
is not great. And people would say, well, that's what you've got warranty for. Well, that's true. But I encourage you to go look at the wait times at some of these repair centers. It is months and months.
Right.
Not just to get it in, but then once they get it in, to get the work done.
It is a house on wheels, guys. And I think if you take that approach and mentality and understanding what can go wrong with these things, just think of your house. When you you bought a brand new home and you're in it for a year, and then all of a sudden you find out that the wiring for something that you were not going to be wiring to until a year till you got the equipment in is completely backwards because they cross some wires or something. That is the same thing that happens with these because they're all custom built. So keep that mentality.
That's true.
You're going to have a punch list. You're going to. My recommendation is to go over and inspect every single little aspect of the operation of it before you drive off the lot. You're going to find some hidden problems like Keith has over the years, which continues to be a problem. The repeat. Of course, we can't keep the magnet of damage away. You kind of have this tendency of people backing into you and scraping your paint and stuff.
Well, the bigger you are, the more in the universe, the more magnetic you become.
Right.
Shopping carts, crackheads breaking into storage facilities and running over your, whatever.
That's it.
I mean, it's
Okay.
So let's get
before we get further.
Go ahead.
And also, tell them the type of driver's license that you need to even operate a 40-foot Thor.
Well, it depends. It's by state, and you need to check your state local laws. I in Tennessee, do not require a CDL, a commercial driver's license. It's not a bad thing to go ahead and take the course because it is very valuable in terms of learning, teaching you how to handle these things. But not every state requires it, and that's also true of the towable stuff. Like it depends on how long you're just going to have to check your local state's DMV requirements on that.
You got to check with your DMV for licensing, how you're supposed to hook it up, what you discovered here about pulling a trailer, for example.
Yep.
The differences. What was that? It was a special, it had to be a specific size or under specific size, and you had to have it licensed differently. Again, that's another, like, how you tow and what you tow. And I do not like towing my vehicles forward down. I don't like turning the tires and wheels because it's putting miles on the transmission whether the engine's running or not. Right.
So I use a car hauler trailer. Well, again, in Tennessee, that's a utility trailer, and I'm not required to have a license plate on the back of it if it's under a certain length.
Right.
But I always carry a copy of that state code and statute with me, printed out, because you never know, some state trooper or whatever is going to just get funny with you and, try to cite you for something.
Right.
So I just carry a copy of the rules.
Yep.